Trying to understand English grammar is like trying to solve a mystery. English grammar is irregular, contradictory, and confusing. Fortunately, though, you don't have to walk these dark streets of grammatical confusion by yourself. I'm English teacher Paul Duke, and on this show I'll be your grammar detective. Each week, we'll investigate communication crimes and suspicious sentences, context clues and example evidence. Together, we'll solve these English mysteries once and for all. Welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. Hello everyone, welcome to Hard-Boiled English Live. On this weird little show, we investigate and hopefully solve your English grammar mysteries. I, of course, am your humble host, English instructor, and grammar detective, Paul Duke. And I'm streaming to you live from Vancouver, Canada, to YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, Twitch, and today, for the very first time, I'm streaming live to a brand new platform called Live Space. Now, Live Space is still in beta phase, and I am one of the fortunate live streamers who have been invited to participate in its beta phase. So keep your eyes open for the logo and the link to Live Space, because very soon, once it launches, it is going to be the premier place to find live stream content. So it's going to be a little bit like YouTube, except everything there will be live streams. So hopefully it launches soon and all of you can watch all your live streaming content in one place, including our show. As we get started, I'd love for you to say hello and tell me where you're watching from. Let's see what we have here. Who has joined us so far? Well, let me say hello to Sleepwalker. Sleepwalker's with us. We have Zaza. We have Learn English with Mask Girl joining us. We also have Pallavi from India watching. Great. And we have with us a Facebook user from Argentina. Now, the reason we cannot see the name is because Facebook user is watching inside a Facebook group. So if you're in a Facebook group, we won't see your name. Also with us is Naeem. We have Roni from Bangladesh. Did I miss someone? We have Kevin Fernando Hernandez Pascual from Mexico. Thank you for joining us. We also have M. Gloria Trindade. Maria from Brazil. Great. Thank you, Maria. And we have Abir Ahmed. Where are you from, Abir? I'm just going to check something here and see if we are correctly streaming. And it seems we are not fully streaming to Live Space. Okay. Need some work done on that. Okay. Who else? We have Sleepwalker from Rutia. We have Zaza from Morocco. Great. Yeah, great, guys. Thank you for joining me today. Hopefully this new summer time slot works for you. I had to change from my Friday evening to my Friday morning because it gets too hot in my home studio. And if I continued, I would melt. We don't want that. That's not good for me, and it's not good for you. Joining us also is Nani from Jambi, Indonesia. Great to have you with us. And Abir tells us he's from Bangladesh. Great. And we have Zahira. Great. Well, guys, on today's show, I've already got a lot of questions lined up. A couple of them from a previous show and a couple questions sent to me during the week. So we're going to get right to that. And we have Facebook user from Zambia. What is your name? Because we don't see it. We see Facebook user because it seems you're watching from a Facebook group, which is fine. But in a Facebook group, we don't get to see your name. So that's a small problem. Now, guys, we have several questions, as I mentioned. But let me just run through a few things here. If you're new to this show, you may also be new to what I do. And one of the things that I do is I produce a web series called English Weirdness, which you can find on the YouTube channel. And if you're not familiar with the YouTube channel, please go and find it. The YouTube channel is called The Grammar Detective. The Grammar Detective. Find the channel, subscribe. It is actually the best place to watch this live for now because it gives us the best high definition signal. Now, if you have grammar questions, you can always email them to me at hardboiledenglish6@gmail.com. And I'll prepare them for the show and answer them on the show. But you can also ask questions right here. Sometimes we run out of time. And in a moment, I'll get to our first questions. All right. What else? You can also find my website, hardboiledenglish.com. You can learn more about me. You can learn also more about my private tutoring that I do. So if you need private tutoring online, wherever you are in the world, we can meet and I can help you with, generally I focus on helping students with their writing, but contact me if you need help. If you go to that website, you will find a contact form. Just email me your message and tell me how I can help you. Or, you can follow the links down below to me on Facebook, LinkedIn, and so on, and you can just send me a DM, right? DM me, dude, as the kids say. Okay. Just make sure I haven't missed saying hello to anyone. We have Roni. Oh, Godfrey in Zambia. Welcome, Godfrey. Nice to have you with us. We also have Patricia from Argentina. Great to have you with us. And Roni is saying, competency-based teaching method. How to teach grammar or any topic through competency-based teaching method. Well, I'm actually not sure what that is, Roni. I've never heard that term before. Maybe I know it as a different term. This show is devoted to investigating grammar. I focus on grammar. I'm really not here to teach teaching. I don't feel that I'm the right teacher to teach you teaching tips. There are other teachers online, for example, Eric Oscar Wesch from Etiquette. He's a great teacher, and his website and his YouTube channel and live stream are all about helping teachers learn teaching techniques. I don't focus on that on this show. I focus on investigating grammar. So I'm not really the ideal person to talk about different teaching methods. And by the way, they change all the time. And the teaching methods I learned may be out of date. Okay, Kareem has a question we'll get to shortly. How to use wade to add intensity. That's a great question, Kareem. Do you have an example sentence you can give us? Okay, guys, so let's use our time wisely today. Let's get right to things. I'm going to go to our first question. And this question is about phrasal verbs. Now, give me a moment. I'm going to get my costume off so we can get down to some work. Now, what is a phrasal verb? Well, a phrasal verb is made of two parts. The verb, let's say turn, and then the preposition, like turn on or off. Turn on the lights, turn off the lights. Okay, so there are two parts here. That makes it a phrase. Remember what a phrase is. A phrase is a bunch of words that don't have a complete idea. They don't communicate a complete idea. This is going to be very important in a while when I talk about clauses. If I just say, turn off, that's not a complete idea. You won't understand what I'm talking about. If I walk up to you at the bus stop, this is my bus stop test. It's a thought experiment to test if a phrase expresses a complete idea. If I walk up to a stranger at a bus stop and say, excuse me, turn off, will they understand me? No, because that's not a complete idea. It's only a phrase. It's not a clause. A clause has a subject and a verb. Here we have a verb and a preposition, but there's no subject and there's no object. We don't know who should turn on or turn off, and we don't know turn off or on what. So this is a phrase, a phrasal verb. Now, they're very confusing because they change the meaning of the verb. The verb turn means to do this, right? That's turn. Turn on creates a different meaning. So, for example, when I say turn on the lights, it means to add electricity, to give the lights power. Now, why do we say turn? Because actually I just press the button. Well, language is old. So when electricity first appeared in the world, they didn't press a button to turn lights on. They actually dialed a generator coil, right? You've seen them in the old movies maybe. They turned a handle to create electrical current in some kind of magnetized machine. So they literally turned something. So they started saying, turn on the lights, turn on anything else that's electric. We still use that expression, but the connection to its physical meaning is lost. So we still say turn on the power. Even when I press my laptop, I press a button. I don't say press on, I say turn on. That's a phrasal verb. Now, as I just told you, that comes from the early days of electricity over 100 years ago, right? So if I just look at these words, I can't understand the meaning. I just have to learn the meaning. So to give power, generally electrical power to something, turn on the computer, turn on the lights, okay? So here's the answer to this question. How do you learn phrasal verbs? You have to remember them because you can't determine the meaning just from looking at them. You really can't, because the meaning is related to a reality that might be 100 years old. And you didn't grow up in that reality. You've never turned something to give it electricity, right? But your grandparents might have, or your great-grandparents. So to learn phrasal verbs, you just have to study them, memorize the meanings, okay? Read them in context if you read a book, or listen to them in context to understand. You know, in a TV show, for example, if a mother tells a child, please turn on the lights, or please turn off the music, and then the child goes and turns off the power on the stereo, now you know the meaning. Turn off the music, turn off the stereo, okay? And by the way, when I was young, when we had portable stereos, you did turn something to give it electricity. So phrasal verbs are difficult. They are challenging. They are confusing. And there's no easy way to learn them because there's no grammar rule to using them or constructing them. They originate in a context, and the context changes over time. So you can get a list of phrasal verbs and memorize them and then notice them in your reading and listening. If you email me, I can give you a list of common phrasal verbs for you to study, but that's how you learn them. Study the list, notice them in use in context, try to figure out what they mean from the context, and then try to use them yourself. Okay? That's phrasal verbs. Let's just jump over here and see if I missed anyone saying hello. We have Wilson joining us from Ecuador. Hi, Wilson. Welcome back. Great to see you again. Long time no see. We have Majid. Majid is with us from LinkedIn. Great. Thank you for watching us, Majid. Majid, what country are you in? We have a whole range of countries joining us here. Okay, let's go to our next question. This is interesting. I'm just going to clean the board, guys. Get ready for the next question. Okay. So what's the difference here? Speak English or speak in English? Well, there's really no difference in meaning. The question really is this preposition, in. Do we need it? Do we need to say, like, please? Let's start with this. Let's imagine you're giving a request to a friend or an order, and you say, please speak. Okay? Well, please speak what? Actually, let's make a full sentence, not an imperative. Just a little more clear. Let's say we have a sentence like, she speaks. Okay. Is that a complete idea? We have a subject. We have a verb. Now, by the way, that makes a clause. Okay, this is called a clause. So to make a clause, and a clause is the basic unit or building block of meaning in English, right? There's no meaning unless you have a subject and a verb. But there's one more criteria. You need a subject and a verb, but you also need this to be a complete idea. How do you know if it's a complete idea? Well, do the bus stop test. Imagine that you walk up to a stranger at a bus stop and say, excuse me, she speaks. Will they understand you? Probably not. It seems incomplete. She speaks, yeah, okay, great. She speaks what? She speaks something, right? So something is missing here. We need an object for this to be complete. It's already a subject and a verb. It's not a clause yet because it's not a complete idea. Objects are generally nouns, right? That's an object, a physical object. So they're generally nouns. Okay, so what does that mean for us? She speaks something. We need an object and we need it to be a noun. Well, English is a noun. She speaks English. Now we have a subject and a verb, and we have a complete idea. So now this is a clause. It's a complete idea expressed with a subject and a verb and an object. Now, you don't always need an object for a complete idea. Some verbs do, right? Transitive verbs need an object. Intransitive verbs do not. But if you need an object, if this is the language she speaks, you cannot have a preposition here, right? So how does this work? Transitive verb means the subject does the action and the action affects the object. Okay? Now, what about this in English stuff? If we said she speaks, and you wanted to know how she speaks, what way, right? She speaks. How does she speak? Well, here, you could put an adverb, right? She speaks quickly, nicely. Okay? That's an adverb that tells us how she speaks. Now, this is also a clause. We have a subject and a verb, and we have a complete idea now because we have an adverb at the end. So some sentences don't need an object. Sometimes they can have an adjective here or an adverb. if you have an action verb like this, you can't have an adjective here. We shouldn't say she speaks quick or she speaks nice. You put adjectives here when you have a be verb. She is nice. She is quick. In this structure, we have an adverb. Now, these answer the question how. But what if my question is where or in what circumstances? Then I could put an adverb phrase with a preposition. She speaks at school. She speaks in class, right? So this preposition phrase tells us where the action happens, okay? Now we can take this idea of where and take it out of location, physical space, and put it into sort of conditions or situations. And that's where you could say, in English. Okay, now in English is a circumstance. It's a situation. It's an adverb, right? It's not the object. It's not the language she speaks. It's describing where or under what circumstances she speaks. So the answer to that question is both are possible, but they're communicating a slightly different idea. So how do you know which one to use? Well, if this is the answer to a question, what if the question is, what or which language does she speak? And the answer needs to be an answer to the question, what? When you ask a question, what, the answer is an object. What do you like to eat? I like to eat sushi. When people ask you what, the answer is the object. What is your name? My name is Paul. Okay? So if someone says, what does she speak? What language does she speak? That's your answer. Okay? If the question is, how does she speak? You could say, she speaks quickly in Japanese, her native language, or she speaks slowly in English. In this situation, she speaks slowly. In Japanese, in that situation, in that language situation, she speaks quickly. She speaks slowly in English. Okay? That is not an object. That's an adverb plus preposition phrase. So the whole thing acts like an adverb. So in answer to this question, both are possible. Okay, I'm going to clear the board and then we'll get to our next question. But let me also say hello to somebody from a Russian-speaking place. I want to say hello also to Luis. Phrasal verbs, yes, you have to memorize them. I'm afraid so. They're one of those features of English that don't follow rules. There's no real structural rule to them. They emerge out of a context. In that sense, they are idioms, right? Idioms are not logically constructed. What language she speaks, that's not really how we make a question. You should put the auxiliary verb. What language does she speak? Okay, this is actually not a question. This is a statement. It's a noun clause. Okay, remember I put them in a sentence. Okay, I'm just going to clear the board, guys, and get ready for our next question. And the next question, I believe, is going to require a few minutes. It's a little more complicated. Now, one of you last week asked me about conditionals. So I'm not sure who it was. Okay, so Maria says, I think phrasal verb is quite similar to prepositional verbs. There are no prepositional verbs. That's an illusion or a lie. Prepositions do not work with verbs. Not exactly. Prepositions connect nouns. That's their job, right? Pen, noun. Container or glass, cup, noun. Pen in cup. Prepositions connect nouns. They come before nouns, right? Noun, preposition, in the park. Now, obviously that's not a sentence. A sentence needs a verb. So over here you're going to have a verb like danced. And here you need a subject. She danced. Where? In the park. But this preposition belongs to the noun. It connects the noun to that sentence with a meaning, right? She didn't dance on the park or above the park. She danced in the park. So I want you guys to remember that. Of course, prepositions work with the whole sentence, but their job is to connect the noun, okay? Now, there are verb collocations, verb structures that you are taught with the preposition. But right after that preposition needs to be a noun. It's just that we teach an expression like, I look forward to, right? We want you to remember that whole expression because they always work together. I look forward to. But here belongs a noun. Why? Because there's a preposition there. And the preposition is there to connect the noun. It's not there to connect the verb. It belongs to the noun. So unfortunately, a lot of textbooks teach you that prepositions belong to the verbs. They do not. They belong to the noun. In fact, the word preposition, pre means before, position means position of the noun. They come before nouns. So it's more useful when you're learning to remember that the preposition attaches to the noun. Okay? Now you're going to say, well, the preposition to also works with the infinitive verb. Yes, but in that case, it's no longer a preposition. It's part of the infinitive verb. Like, I want what? To dance. To dance is a infinitive verb. Okay, but by the way, guys, in a couple of weeks, I'm inviting a teacher from Brazil named Pedro. He's been on the show before. We are going to do a whole show about prepositions because he believes that Brazilian students of English have an especially hard time with prepositions. So he wants us to cover them in some detail. So we're going to devote a whole show to prepositions. So that'll be fun. I love prepositions. Okay. Mixed conditionals. Okay. Let's review what basic conditionals are. Okay. Conditionals are not a different verb tense. They're not one of the verb tenses. Remember that. Conditionals are a type of sentence that communicates the idea that if this condition happens, this result happens. And what's a condition? A condition is a situation, right? Or a circumstance. When you have that, you have this result. So conditionals grammar is a way to express the relationship between conditions and results. It's not a verb tense. And there are basically 4 different structures of conditional. Now I have a chart that some of you may have already. If you don't have it, email me and I'll give you a downloadable copy of it. But let's bring it up here. Yeah, it's a small version. Okay, so here you can see condition and result. Okay, so let's divide the condition and the result. Now, sometimes zero conditional and first conditional are taught as one and the same. Zero conditional means that it is always true. When you have this particular condition, you always have this particular result. In other words, there is zero situation where it's not true. So think about scientific facts like if water reaches 0 degrees, what happens? It freezes. So if water has the 0 degree condition, it freezes. Sometimes? No, all the time. So think of zero conditional as scientific fact. It's always true. There's zero situation where it's not true. And how do we make that? We use the present verb and present verb. So this is my little example here because for me it's a scientific fact. It's not really. If you study conditionals, your English improves. Always. Okay, now that's not a scientific fact, but for me, there's no situation where studying leads to worse English. Never happens. Okay, what's a first conditional then? A first conditional is flexible. It allows us to express something that if this happens today or tomorrow, so we can use it for the present and the future, this will also happen. Now, if the sun comes out tomorrow, I will play basketball outside. That's real. That's what I will do. If the sun doesn't come out tomorrow, I will stay home. Okay? Now, this is where it's different than zero. Because what if I said, if the sun comes out any day, I play basketball. So not the future, but generally true. If the sun comes out, I play basketball. Is that like zero? Is that a scientific fact? No. Is there a condition where it's never true? Yeah. If the sun comes out sometimes and I have to work, then I don't go out and play basketball. So it is not always true. It's generally true. Or it's true tomorrow. Okay, that's the difference between zero and first. Okay? Now remember, guys, this is not verb tense expression, but we need verbs in every sentence. So there are verbs here, and they have different tenses, and there's a reason why. What time frame are we talking about when we talk about zero? We're talking about always true. First can be true today, it can be true tomorrow, it can be generally true, but there are situations where it's not true. Okay, like if I have to work, I don't go outside even when it's sunny. So we're talking about the present or the future. And by the way, over here, we have a very important idea that I want you to think about. Here, real or true. These conditionals, zero and first, are real. They're true. If it's sunny, I will play basketball. That's true. I'm expressing a reality. Let's look at second conditional. Now, second conditional is pointing to the present, just like this is. Just like this is. This is always true. This is true today or tomorrow. Second conditional is talking about today, but differently, it's expressing something that's not real. It's expressing something hypothetical about the present. For example, if I had a basketball, I would play today. I don't have a basketball. I have a baseball, right? I have a baseball, but I do not have a basketball. Therefore, I will not play today. This is not true. This is not real. It's an imaginary situation. I imagine this condition and I imagine the result. Where am I? Right? These are unreal. This is hypothetical. Hypothetical. Imaginary. Okay? Now, why do we need that? Why does a human need that? Well, because humans have an imagination. We can imagine things that are not real. So we need language to express that. If I had a basketball, I would play today. But I don't have a basketball, so I can't play today. Okay? If it were sunny out, I would go outside and play basketball or shoot hoops. But it's not sunny. It's raining. So this is not real. Now, the most common and most famous example of a second conditional is when you say something like, if I had $1 million right now, I would buy a Lamborghini. But I don't have $1 million. I'm a poor teacher. So, no Lamborghini. What am I communicating? I'm communicating the idea of a present that doesn't exist. But I can imagine it. If I were not a poor teacher right now, if I were a rich guy with $1 million in his pocket, I would go out and buy a sports car. Why? Because it'd be cool to have a sports car. Okay? So second conditional is expressing a hypothetical or unreal present. But to do that, we need to use the past tense verb. If I had $1 million, if I had a basketball. But I'm not talking about the past. Okay, teacher, why do you need a past tense verb? Easy. Because here we use present tense verb. And this has to communicate something different. That's why we use past tense verb. Okay? But we're not pointing to the past, we're pointing to the present. A present that doesn't exist. Okay, now we are getting to mixed conditionals. But let's review the third conditional. Now, the third conditional is talking about the past, right? The idea is about the past. So, for example, if I had finished my homework yesterday, I would have gone out and played. But that never happened. I didn't finish my homework, so I didn't go out and played. I stayed home and studied more. Big test tomorrow. So this is a past that never actually happened. It's unreal. It's unreal. It never happened. It is a hypothetical or alternative past, an imaginary past. Why do we need that? Because I'm human, I have an imagination and a memory. And I have a memory that allows me to think about the past. I can think about the past that really happened. Yesterday I studied. And I can think about a past that could have been different. Well, I studied yesterday, but I can dream about having $1 million yesterday and driving around my new Lamborghini. Never happened. So, second and third conditionals allow us to express imaginary condition and result expressions. Okay. Why is the past unreal or hypothetical? Because you can't change it. It's past. So if this past never happened, it's imaginary. It's the past the way you imagine it. Okay? So when we mix conditionals, what are we mixing? Mixed conditionals are taking a condition from one of the four and mixing it with the result of another. Let's try that. Let's mix zero and first. If you study conditionals, I will play basketball outside. That's weird. Let's try mixing first and the condition of the first and the result of the zero. If the sun comes out tomorrow, your English improves. Well, that doesn't work because we're talking about tomorrow and we need future tense result. If the sun comes out tomorrow, I will play basketball. Can I say, if the sun comes out tomorrow, I play basketball? No, because simple present expresses habit. So if the sun comes out tomorrow, we need to use the future. So this tells me that we really can't mix zero and first because they're communicating an absolute truth, constant truth, or a truth about a future result. However, and this is where mixed conditionals really work, Sometimes a condition in the past produces a result in the past, but that result continues to the present. Think about that. If I had finished my homework yesterday, I would have gone out and played. Okay, I'm not playing now, but I would have gone out and played yesterday, but then I would have gone home and slept. What if I say this? If I had studied Arabic when I was a child, okay, when I was a child tells me it's the past. If I had studied Arabic language when I was a child, I would have become fluent in the past, right? If I had studied Arabic when I was a child, I would have become fluent. That's good. Would I still be fluent? Probably. So I can also use the second conditional's result. If I had studied Arabic when I was a child, I would be fluent now. Okay? Now, why does that work? Because sometimes results from the past, they just last, they continue. This one didn't continue. I would have gone out and played, but at some point I would have stopped playing in the past and come home for dinner and then gone to sleep. But if you had studied a language in the past, if you go home and sleep after studying the language, you wake up in the morning, you still have the language. So that's when we can mix conditionals. So that tells me we can generally mix second and third conditionals. Okay, because they're both hypothetical, they're both unreal. But you see this line here? This line kind of separates the real from the unreal. And I cannot think of an example where an unreal condition produces a real result. Can you? Okay, sleepwalker. Was it Sleepwalker who asked about conditionals? Yes, Sleepwalker. Does that help you understand mixed conditionals? Like, you don't have to mix conditionals, but in some situations, it does fit because the past condition led to a result that continues to the present, right? Now, guys, I want you to pay attention to something. With second and third conditionals, there's a special word that expresses something only for second and third conditionals, and would. Would. Now use would once in the result clause. Some languages use would twice, like if it would be sunny out, I would play today. Not in English. In English, would belongs to the result clause. And would is the word that expresses that this is hypothetical. Would. And that leads to other uses of the word would to express something or request something that's not real yet. For example, would you open the door, please? That's a way to request something. But it's actually a conditional. It means, would you open the door if it's convenient or if you don't mind? But we shorten that and say, would you open the door? Now, it remains unreal until the person agrees to do it. That's why we use that for request. It's polite because it gives the other person the choice to do the action or not. Would you mind opening the door, please? Actually, I can't. I'm really busy. Okay. So it's not real. Didn't happen. So we borrow the conditional for a lot of other expressions. Conditionals are very important to learn. So, but guys, if you want a copy of this downloadable, email me and I'll send you the JPEG, okay? Okay, let's move on to a couple of other questions. Let's see what I've missed. Did I miss saying hello to anyone? Okay, good. Is non-veg a word? In India, a lot of people use non-veg, but I haven't found. What does it mean, I wonder? Can you give me a sentence example? Because the prefix non, like you could say this, vegetarian food or vegetarian dish. So this is a vegetarian dish, right? Let's say lentil dal. That's vegetarian. But let's say beef curry is non-vegetarian. But that's how you should phrase it. Non-vegetarian. Now, in speech, once it becomes commonly understood, sometimes people take that and make it into a short form. So if you're in a restaurant and the waiter says, "Oh, you should try our lentil dal," or "You should try our beef curry," you could say, "Oh, is it non-veg?" Right? Speech does that. Unfortunately, when you're learning a language, you don't know the full word sometimes, so it can be confusing. Is it an actual word? I don't think so. So it's probably not in the dictionary. It's probably coming from this, non-vegetarian, right? Okay, good. Excuse me, guys. Just need a glass of water here. Thank you again for joining the show today. Today was supposed to be the first time we stream live on LiveSpace, but I don't see it working. So I'll have to investigate that. Yeah, I think so. Yeah, got to learn them. Yeah, I mean, you don't have to memorize all of them, right? But this is also why, exposing yourself to language is important. Reading, watching movies, listening, getting exposed to the phrasal verbs that people commonly use, right? If you memorize a whole bunch of words that nobody uses and you never see in a written article or story, and you never hear someone using it, it's a waste of time to remember it. Okay. Great that you guys are having conversations. Excuse me, guys. If I had not wings, if I had wings, I will fly. Now, this is not second conditional because second conditional is unreal. So you need would. Would tells us it's unreal. Okay. Second conditional is not real. I will fly tomorrow. That's real. That's a real future that I'm planning. This is impossible. I don't have wings. So you need to say, if I had wings today, I would fly, but I don't have wings. So I will not fly. Use would when it's unreal. That's really important, guys. Let me remind you. Will is only for first conditional, and first conditional is real. If the sun comes out tomorrow, I will play. You will see me on the playground playing basketball. Second conditional is not real, right? If I had a basketball, I would play. Will and would are very different. Would expresses the unreal meaning. And I would argue that it always expresses unrealness. Even like I said in the request, would you open the door, please? Would you help me? It's not real until the person says yes, because there is the possibility that they say no. Would you please help me? No, I'm sorry, I can't. Okay, then I never get help. That remains an unreal situation, right? Unreal would. Nope. If I were a bird, I would fly. You're not a bird. So tomorrow you are not going to fly. It's not going to happen. This is unreal. This must be unreal. Would expresses unreal. Excuse me. How to use most importantly in the sentence as a transition. What is the logic and grammar behind it? Well, good question. So a transition word does two things. It gets you ready for the new idea of the next sentence. Here, I love swimming. But it also points to the idea in the last sentence. So here you have, I enjoy many sports such as soccer, basketball, and baseball. You gave them a list of several choices. Most importantly, I love swimming. So out of that list of activities, the most important one is swimming. But you put it in a new sentence so that it's separate. So most importantly is connected to the last idea. So I enjoy many sports such as soccer, basketball, and swimming. Right? Soccer, basketball, and so on. But the most important sport I like is swimming. So here, most importantly, which is an adverb, is telling us that out of the past idea, out of all those sports, swimming is the one I love most importantly. Okay? So it's a transition. Transition expressions point to the idea of the last sentence, but they introduce the new idea at the same time. And that's what makes them powerful. Well, Sleepwalker, I hope you got my conditional chart to help you remember the structures, okay? Oh, great. That's good news, Zaza. Zaza, I don't know if you have gotten it yet, but please email me and I'll give you a copy of that conditionals chart, this one here. Okay? Because the conditional, there are 4 different structures and they're all a little different. It's really important to understand how the parts work. Otherwise, we make mistakes like we've seen with will and would. Would is for the unreal. Always remember that, guys. If I were poor, this is a second conditional. If I were poor, I would work more. But Nelson's not poor, so he doesn't work so much. He's kind of easygoing. So he's not poor, and he doesn't work more. Both of these are not true. These are hypothetical. And would tells me that. I would work, but I'm not poor, so I will not work. Yes, Nelson must be rich. If you knew me, you would not be saying this. There's another conditional. There's a negative there. So you're telling us that we don't really know you, right? If you knew me, which you don't, you wouldn't be saying this, right? Good. Yeah, here's another one. If I won the lottery today, I would travel around the world. But I'm not going to win the lottery. Or I didn't win the lottery today. So travel around the world is unreal. Okay? Here's a great example of a mixed conditional. If I had practiced conditional sentence more often in the past, I would use them without any problems now, right? You could also say, if I had practiced conditional sentence more in the past, I would have learned them. But if you learn something in the past, usually you keep that knowledge to the present. So you can say, you can use the second conditional result. So this is excellent, right? Very nice. It's not always true. It just depends on the verbs you're using. It depends on the action you're talking about. Learning a language in the past usually continues into the present. But if you said something like a simple action, like if I had studied last year, I would have passed the test. Well, that test is in the past. It doesn't continue to the present. If I had won the lottery in the past, I would have traveled the world. But I didn't win the lottery, so I didn't travel. Good. Good third conditional. Thank you very much. So this is an example of a zero conditional, but I would say this is better as a first conditional because there are situations where this might not happen, right? Babies cry when they feel hungry. So let's switch it around. When they feel hungry is baby cry. That's generally true, okay? But it's also true that babies cry when they're lonely. It's also true that babies cry when they hurt their foot. So we can't really say this is a zero conditional because it's not 100% true always. So therefore, it's a first conditional. First conditional can express a future result or a present result, okay? If I were a bird, I would fly. Exactly. But you're not a bird, so you can't fly. Not possible. Well, this is very kind of you to say. The English grammar is easy when if we have teacher Paul. Okay, so that's a first conditional. And thank you for saying that. So those are all really good questions, guys, that we've had so far. Now, there's one more that I want to talk about, but I'm going to have to be quick. So I'm going to post this up, clear the board. And I've kind of already answered this, but we can review it together. So earlier I mentioned clauses. And there are two types of clauses, basically, that we need to know. Actually, there's several types of clauses, but the two most important ones you need to know are the independent clause and the dependent clause. Okay, so what the heck are these? Well, what is a clause? I told you before, a clause is a subject and a verb. That's a clause, but that's also a clause, right? So a clause requires a subject and a verb, and there's another layer of important criteria. Excuse me. It also must be a complete idea. How do you know if it's a complete idea? Well, bus stop test. Imagine you walk up to a stranger at the bus stop and say your clause. Will they understand you? Excuse me, guys. I'm just going to open a door here because I think I've got an air quality problem. It gets very hot here. Excuse me for some water. All right. So, clause. Every clause needs a subject and a verb and a complete idea. If it's a complete idea, it is independent. In other words, you can say it at the bus stop, and the old lady at the bus stop will understand you. Let me give you an example. I run. It's my hobby. Now, that's a small idea, but it's complete. Simple present expresses your hobbies, habits, routines, or scientific truth. I run. Okay? Now, I could also have an object here. I don't need it, but some sentences need it, right? Like, I like pizza. We have a subject and a verb. Okay. It's a complete idea. Yes. If I walk up to a stranger at a bus stop and say, "Excuse me, I like pizza," they will understand me. They'll say, "Oh, really? Good. Yeah. Why are you telling me this?" Now, it doesn't explain why you're telling them that, but they'll understand that idea. Okay? Therefore, it's independent. You can start the sentence and you can end the sentence and you don't need anything else. It's independent. So, what's a dependent clause? Well, it's a clause, so it has a subject and a verb. But it's an incomplete idea. So, independent clause, complete idea. Dependent clause, incomplete idea. Now, it can be incomplete for two reasons. One, the subject and verb is not enough to fully explain the idea. For example, I like. I like. In English, like is a transitive verb. It needs an object. Okay? I like. Is that a complete idea? Do the bus stop test. Excuse me, madam. I like. Will the lady at the bus stop understand you? I like. I like. She won't understand you because in English, after the verb like, you need an object. You need to like something. I like pizza. Oh, good for you. I like sushi. Excuse me. I like. If you tell the lady at the bus stop that, she's going to say, you like what? Something's missing. So it's not complete. So not having enough words can make it dependent. It needs to connect to an independent clause for a full meaning. But also adding some words changes the meaning. For example, if you add a word like when, okay? Here we have a subject and a verb, and we have an adjective. Okay, so that's a clause, but is it independent? If I say that at the bus stop, it is fresh with this word on it, excuse me, when it is fresh. Yeah, when it is fresh. That's not a complete idea. Even though it has an extra word, it's not complete. It depends on another idea. If we connect them, now we have a complex sentence. I like pizza. When? When it is fresh. So this makes sense only when it's part of this sentence. In other words, that depends on this. Another way to think about it. Adults are independent. I'm an adult. I'm an old man. I can live without my parents, right? I have a job. I make money. I pay for my home. I pay for my food. I'm independent. Babies are dependent. They depend on mother and father. In other words, babies can't have their own apartment, right? Or house. Babies can't live alone. Not possible. Just like that, a baby sentence that isn't fully formed can't be alone. It has to be here. This is important in writing, okay? So in writing, you can't say something like this. Food is amazing. For example, I like pizza. When it is fresh. For example, in the morning. Okay, when you're writing a paragraph, every sentence has to be independent. It has to be able to live by itself. It has to be able to start with a capital and end with a period or question mark. Food is amazing. We have a subject, we have a verb, and it's a complete idea. Food is amazing. Look at the next one. For example, I like pizza. Okay, for example, subject, verb, object, and it's a complete idea. So far, so good. Now we start a new sentence. When it is fresh. When it is fresh, if I pull that sentence out, now I've got this thing again. That's a dependent clause. It can't just sit in the middle of the paragraph like that. It has to be connected to the independent clause. For example, I like pizza when it is fresh. Okay? Now we have a new sentence. For example, in the morning. Wait a minute. Is that an independent clause? Is that an independent sentence? Does it pass the bus stop test? Can I talk to a stranger and say, "Excuse me, madam, for example, in the morning"? Not only is that not a complete idea, the lady at the bus stop will not understand it. Not only that, it's not a clause. There's no subject and there's no verb. For example, in the morning is a prepositional phrase. There's no verb there. So this can't exist by itself. It cannot be independent, right? It needs to be connected to a dependent clause to have a full meaning, okay? So that's the difference between independent and dependent clauses. Dependent clauses cannot sit there alone. They cannot start and end with a capital M period. They have to be connected to an independent clause. An independent clause, it can be alone. So remember babies. Babies cannot be alone. They can't live alone in an apartment. They won't live. They need an adult. Okay? When it is fresh. Because it is fresh. Because, if I put because here, it's not going to be independent. If I put after it is fresh, it's not going to be independent. It's going to be dependent. So sometimes adding words like that make it dependent. It needs something else to complete its meaning. Here's a good point. Pallavi says, if I say I like pizza to a stranger, they will think I'm crazy, move on from there. Yes, that's true. But they will understand this idea. They will know you like pizza because that is a complete idea. They still might think you're crazy for talking to them. That's true. That's not my point. My point is they will understand this clause. They will understand this idea very clearly. I like pizza. If I say when it is fresh, they will not understand that idea and they'll think you're crazy. Two problems. Yeah, so the bus stop test is an imaginary thought experiment to test if that stranger will understand you, because that stranger didn't see the whole paragraph. You're just taking one sentence out and giving it to them. So it's testing whether someone could understand the completeness of the idea. This one here, for example. For example, in the morning. Pull that out of the paragraph and say that to a stranger. Excuse me. For example, in the morning. Excuse me. When it is fresh. Excuse me. Before the sunset. Huh? Excuse me. Because I like pizza. The idea is lost. It's not complete. It needs help. Okay? That's a dependent clause. A dependent clause, it's a clause, has a subject and a verb, but it's not a complete idea. It needs to be connected to this in one sentence. They need to be together in one large sentence. Okay, guys, my studio is starting to melt, so I'm going to have to say goodbye. Just want to remind you that we'll be here next week, 10 a.m. Friday morning Pacific time. Thank you very much for joining me today. It's great to have you with me. We had a good turnout today. If you haven't already, please go to my YouTube channel and please subscribe, because that's also where I put the recordings of this show. You will not find the recordings on Facebook until I post the YouTube link. So if you've missed something or want to look at an older episode or want to watch my series English Weirdness, go to the YouTube channel, which is, of course, The Grammar Detective. Okay? No reason. In fact, I have a quiz prepared, but I've had so many questions. I just wanted to make sure we devoted all the time to answering the questions. On days when the audience doesn't have a lot of questions, or I don't have questions already, Sleepwalker, then I have quizzes for you. But I've only got an hour. Like I said, my studio gets so hot, and I'm starting to feel it. My voice is starting to go. It's so hot in here. Even in the morning, I can't go much longer than an hour. Okay? So it depends. We got a lot of work done today, answered a lot of the questions that have been sent to me in the past. So maybe next week we can have a quiz, but there's no reason not to have a quiz. So there's more quizzes coming, don't worry. Okay? If I had more time, I would give you a quiz, but I don't have more time. In the winter, it's different. In the colder months, I can stream for 2 hours if you want, no problem, because it's a lot cooler here and I can survive it. But as you can hear, my voice is already starting to crack up. So I better say goodbye. Okay? You're welcome. Yeah, thank you very much. Thank you for asking the questions. Thank you for asking questions, guys. That's part of learning. Part of learning is, listening to your teacher tell you this rule and that rule. Part of it is memorizing phrasal verbs, right? Part of it is watching YouTube videos or Netflix series. That's all learning. Part of it is reading books. Make sure you read. My firm belief is that you cannot learn English really well unless you read. But also part of it is asking questions about things you're not sure of or contradictions you see. Yes, but whenever you feel that, like, okay, I understand that, but what about, when you feel that, that's a contradiction, that's when you should ask a question. So questions are part of learning, and that's why I made this show, for you guys to ask questions and get answers to them. Okay? Okay, I'm going to say goodbye now. So thank you very, very much for watching the show. Thank you for joining me from all of your different places. It's so lovely to have so many of you from so many different countries coming to this show. I'm deeply honored and privileged to be able to help you with your English learning, okay? So thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye now. So thank you very much. See you next Friday. And until then, as always, stay healthy, keep learning, and stay cool. Thanks for watching tonight's show. If you have an English grammar question, an English mystery, contact me on social media and send me a video of you asking the question. I'll investigate it on a future show. And don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to get all the updates about videos and events. If you're feeling generous, you can also donate to the production costs of the show at Patreon or buy me a coffee. Finally, until the next time I see you on Hardboiled English Live, I want you to keep learning English. Stay healthy and stay cool.